Hello everyone, welcome back. This episode of Bitcoin Trade. Um, in this episode, I'm not going to do too much of a chart analysis um, because it's pretty much going to be, for the most part, what I'm looking at here is, well, not much has changed. Uh, in this particular episode, I'd like to talk about some things that came in the news. So it's going to be short. It's going to be mostly my opinions. And so let's go ahead and start on that. Maybe I'll do a very quick analysis at the end of this video. So stay tuned, everyone. But first thing I'd like to talk about is, well, no, not that. Let me see here. Oh, here it is. All right. So let's take a quick look. All right. So here you go. This is what I like to talk about here. And ironically, I am in California right now, so let's see here. So, anyways, California bill updates ease burden for Bitcoin startup. Well, okay, so they're proposing some thing over there in California. Um, so it talks about a lot of, in this particular article, talks about in this particular quote, the this particular change that they made, which is at the end of the actual um, uh, bill here. But so I clicked on the bill portion of this here, and let me see if I could find it. So there's the bill, draft version of the bill, and I went ahead and clicked on it, and this is where it leads me. Actually, here, this is the vote portion of it. You can actually click on here. You can see the votes. You can see who voted and who said yay, nay, and all this other stuff. It actually gives the names of the different people who voted. So you get an idea of who's uh, where they stand for the most part. And so if you're in California and you're a resident here and you know any of these people, you know, and you have an interest in Bitcoin and whatnot, you can contact them. But here's the actual text of it. And so there's a lot of little things they got here. I didn't really read that. I just want to go to the text part. And I'm going to kind of go over some things here. You see that they've scratched out a lot of stuff. You'll see this right here where they talk about, relating to currency instead of virtual currency. They made some modifications here. Um, Seems like most of it has changed. Hasn't changed other than some stuff. Like, for example, this part right here where they talk about, okay, I guess this portion was originally in the draft here. And if you read this portion here, they took this out. If you could read this, this bill would authorize the commissioner to impose a civil penalty for violation of these provisions. The bill would also make it a felony for a person to intentionally make false statements, misrepresentation, or false certifications. Um, and I can see why they would take this out, because if they had this, if they had this kind of language in most of uh, financial businesses and all that, um, everyone would be in jail. So I bet somebody saw this and said, "Wait a minute, we can't have this because we would all go to jail." So, anyways, you can see they took that out. I think it was a little harsh, felony for misrepresentation and all that. I mean, I think it's pretty apparent that um, I wouldn't say most, but it, recent years, especially around 2008, you could tell a lot of people have totally misrepresented what they were selling. And if this kind of language was in place during that time, you probably would have been a lot of these companies, their leaders, their corporate leaders, their CEOs and everything would probably be in jail. So of course, nobody wants that, so they just threw that out. Anyways, so they took that out, and let me see what else do they do here. All right, so and then they made these additions. You see they're kind of blue here, and this is kind of where they made some of the changes here. So, and apparently this bill will not be come into effect until July 1st, 2016. So a lot of time still. The people of the state of California do enact as follows. And you see they took out this portion to be replaced at another section here being repealed. And I found that interesting that they would repeal this. No corporation, social purpose corporation, association, or individual shall issue or put in circulation as money anything but the lawful money of the United States. And that just doesn't make any sense, so I guess that's why they took it out. Very strange how, I don't know what they're thinking. I guess they just thought that's just too very specific and doesn't really do anything. Anyways, as you read this, you'll see what they've changed and everything. And so let's take a look at this part right here. This is kind of like a really big change here in this particular their definition of what a virtual currency does include and does not. Let me see, is that it? Okay, I guess no, that's not it. Let me see here. Where is it? Alright, here it is. Okay, so what exactly is a virtual currency business? Okay, so because you're a business and you handle virtual currency, does that make you a virtual currency business? Well, let's find out what exactly a virtual currency business means under the new draft here, revised draft here. The virtual currency business means, and they cross this section out, the conduct of either the following types of activities involving a California resident. So they took that out, and they put in maintaining full custody or control of virtual currency in the state on behalf of others. In this state, meaning I'm assuming California. So instead of saying residents, like the New York bit license, they say any resident of New York. They're saying anybody in the state of California, so which makes a lot of sense. Like you could be a resident of California, but what if you're traveling and you go to New York? Wow. Well, I guess you would have a bit license. Well, what if you go to Texas, right? Let's say someone from California goes to Texas, buys some Bitcoins. Does anyone in Texas really need a whatever license to sell Bitcoins to someone who is a California resident that's not even in California? So they took that out. Makes sense. I guess they're kind of learning from New York. Well, New York's mistake, I should say. And so they took that out, and they just said, basically, for the most part, maintaining full custody or control of virtual currency in the state on behalf of others. Okay. And so that's what they're talking about there. So that kind of makes sense to me, and I'm glad they made that change. And then they took out this, part 2, and this is a part about, this is section C right here, and virtual currency business means, and then the 2 portions of it below that. So they changed that, and then you got here providing conversions or exchange service of fiat currency into virtual currency, or the conversion or exchange of virtual currency into fiat currency or other value, or the conversion of or exchange of one form of virtual currency into another form of virtual currency. They took that whole thing out, the whole thing of exchanging currency to currency, virtual currency to currency, uh, fiat currency into virtual currency, vice versa, and also any virtual currency into another virtual currency. Um, and I think that was kind of really foolish to begin with to put that in, because that would mean anybody who would use a virtual currency or use fiat currency to buy virtual currency would need to be licensed, which would mean everybody would need to be licensed, which is really stupid. And it was stupid. I'm glad they changed that. So the idea of exchanging your currency into a fiat currency does not make you a money transmitter in any way, and you don't need to be licensed. So I'm glad they changed that, because that whole part was really, really, I don't know. It just didn't make any sense. So I'm glad they changed that. And let's see here. Let's see what other changes have they made. So basically, if you're holding currency or have control of virtual currency on behalf of others, makes you a virtual currency business. So if you don't actually hold your own currency and trade your own currency, you're doing that for somebody else. Then you are basically a virtual currency business. And of course that had to be changed. Anyways, let's go on to a second part. So exchanging a currency, virtual currency into a fiat, and fiat into virtual, and virtual into another virtual, does not require you to be licensed. Another thing in here, as I was reading it, up here, let me see here. In the beginning, okay, a couple things that they want you to do here is, if you're in the business of virtual currency or virtual currency business, okay, and it's up in the top portion of this section somewhere around here. They also want you to register with FinCEN, because you would be considered a money transmitter, or in the money transmission business. And so the way I think it kind of reads in the beginning, and the way this particular article here, as you see right in here, let me see, where is it? Alright, it says here, in this particular section, like right here, okay, this section right here. The way this article reads, if you just read this and didn't even bother reading the bill, it says, if passed, would require individuals and companies offering services that involve Bitcoin or other digital currencies to first obtain a license. So when you read that, it makes it sound like anybody who's using Bitcoin needs to get a license, because the way it's worded, and require individuals and companies. Well, if you read the bill, that's not entirely true, from what I've read, and I'll kind of get that. But the way it's kind of presented in the beginning, it seems like, and the way this article here, reads, it sounds like, man, if you have any virtual currency whatsoever, and I like how they call it a virtual currency, but they don't really consider it a currency. Legal tender. The way it reads, it sounds like, man, if you have Bitcoins, or if you use Bitcoins, if you bought Bitcoins, if you sold Bitcoins, you have to be licensed. All right. But there's an important things they put in here, which is in this part, or is exempt from license requirement. Okay, or exempt from license requirement. So I'll kind of scroll down a little bit. um, and then kind of get to that part. So they obviously made. So now you know what a virtual currency business means. Okay, okay. Here it is, section right here under this part right there. Virtual currency business means, and cross this out. Okay, and then they got some other stuff in here, which they also took out. Just because you exchange virtual currency to fiat and fiat to virtual and virtual to another virtual currency does not make you virtual currency business. Okay, that's called trading. That's called transacting. Um, you know, there's I won't say there's a fine line. I think there's a lot of confusion between the use of a fiat currency versus the transmission of fiat currency. A lot of people have a misunderstanding. I think there's a lot of people who are confused about that because um, what good is a currency if I can't use it? It's worthless. Uh, I have to get a license so I can exchange my virtual currency for some food, or virtual currency for some fiat currency so I can buy food, um, is ridiculous. Did I already say that? I think I did. Okay, so okay, it talks a little bit. Nothing's really changed here, and okay, here in this part right here. All right, this part right here, it explains the following are exempt from licensing requirements described in section 2602, which is this part right here, which if you read it, it says a person shall not engage in any virtual currency business in this state unless the person is licensed or exempt from licensure under this division. And so, when you read that, it's like, wow, that's you're saying any person shall not engage in any virtual currency business unless you're licensed. Well, let's continue on because it seems very misleading, very confusing when you read this. And so it talks about anybody, United States, the United States or department, agency, instrument thereof, including a Federal Reserve Bank or any Federal Home Loan Bank, they're exempt. Okay, so if you're the United States, you're exempt from getting a license for virtual currency business. Money transmission by the United States Postal Service or contractor thereof, or contractor on behalf of the United States Postal Service, so you don't need a license. Okay, any state, city, county, city and county, and or any other government agency or governmental subdivision of a state. So the state or city, county, city and county, or other government agency or governmental subdivision of a state, okay, you don't need a license. Duh, they exempt themselves, right? Which also means, guess what? They can use virtual currency. All right, that gives them the ability to use virtual currency. The city, the state can use virtual. Any county can use virtual currencies. So they don't need a license. So now, what does that mean? That means maybe I could pay my sales tax in virtual currency. I can pay my property tax in virtual currency. I can, if the state or county or city allows that, if they accept the use of bitcoins, all right, that's huge because they could probably save a lot of money. Well, they don't really save a lot of money. If you ever notice, if you use a credit card to pay off your taxes or your bills, or well, with the state or the city, they usually pass the processing cost on to the taxpayer, right? They don't. The state or the city or county doesn't absorb those processing costs when they use a merchant processor. Well, with Bitcoin, you become the merchant processor. All right, you become the merchant processor. You can merchant process for yourself and save a hell of a lot of money. Well, the state doesn't save a hell of a lot of money. The people who pay your taxes, people paying taxes with a credit card, instead of using a credit card, you can use a Bitcoin. And you don't, well, you could do that cash and check too, but my point is that that option could be there for the state of California, that they could have their taxes or property tax or any other, whatever they're collecting, the city, the state, county, whatever, can now accept Bitcoin as a payment method. So that can open things up. And they probably want to, I don't know how much cost that would be, but it's an option. It's out there. Let me see, a commercial bank or industrial bank, which are well, this is kind of long, but pretty much a bank. They don't need a license. So guess what, bank? You can start using virtual currencies now, right? It's kind of weird, and it was reported that Citibank was experimenting with virtual currency, or blockchain, I should say, and they're making their own whatever, virtual whatever. I don't know what they're going to call it, but so now the banks can now start doing it, and one of the issues that I had, and I'm coming into, is that I'm trying to transact, I'm trying to make a trade, and to ensure that there's, to protect myself, I am ensuring that the funds are there, both on the buyer and seller side. In order to do that, I've looked into trying to have a bank basically, how can I say this? I wouldn't say they're not escrowing, but the use of a bank to escrow the fiat currency, all right, fiat currency in this trade for Bitcoin. And I've come across some issues, is that the banks don't want to do that because apparently they not sure if they can do that, so they'll refuse anybody who's trying to use a bank to basically sort of an escrow the fiat currency in a transaction, whether it's done through an actual escrow company, or whether it's done for your own benefit, basically you doing it yourself. They'll refuse to do that based on maybe some misunderstanding. Well, now, according to this part right here, guess what? You don't need a license, okay, to use Bitcoin or any other virtual currency. Some have actually tried to create their own, apparently. Why? I don't know, because there's already something out there that works. You don't have to even put any money into it. You just have to use it. So there you go. In California, you will be allowed to use a bank. Okay. Now whether the banks want to do this or not will be up to them. They probably won't, because they're still gonna have a lot of misunderstanding. Now, if you see my previous episode, you see. If you see my previous episode, you will see that the guidance that came out from FinCEN and the bill for the bit license in New York. If you've seen those videos, you'll know why. It's very clear on why they've made these changes, and why. Well, I'll get down to a little bit further down on the bottom here, and these are all the exemptions. You don't need to get a license if you're all these. Okay, And then here it says, let me see, any subject to section 72178, any license as a money transmitter under the Money Transmission Act described in blah 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 blah. Okay, whatever. Okay, here's the part that I'm really looking at right here. Okay, this is the part right here. Okay, I'm gonna zoom in because for the viewers who are watching my videos, I want to say this: there's nothing to fear but fear itself. Don't be afraid. All right. You don't need a license. Okay. You're not gonna get fined. You're not gonna be charged with a felony. And here's the part: a merchant, okay, or consumer. And another word for a consumer is user. Okay, a merchant, also a user. All right. So basically, they're saying any users, but they're kind of saying merchant or consumer. They're making it sound like a person who is a merchant. Okay. Well, you're trade. You're trading. All right. You're exchanging goods and services. Blah blah blah. Whatever. Or consumer, and I like how they selected these words, like consumer, as if the only reason why you're going to get virtual currency is so you could buy something with the virtual currency, right? Consumer. But if you've seen my previous videos, you'll understand why a merchant, consumer, a user are exempt from being licensed. I mean, it goes all the way back to one of my very first earlier episodes where I was looking at Washington. That's the time when Washington has declared Bitcoin as money, and why their user is exempt from being a money license, money transmitter. All right, so if you go back to, I mean, I'm not going to tell you which one, you just have to go through the whole videos, but if you've seen my videos and you've been watching my videos, you understand why am I exempt from getting a license? Because I'm a user. All right, so basically they're going to say a user that utilizes virtual currency solely for the purchase, okay, solely for the purchase or sale of goods or services. Now, when you put this together, it makes it sound like, well, the only reason why you would buy Bitcoin is so you could, spend it, right? Buy something for purchasing, sale of goods or services. It makes it sound like, if you bought Bitcoins and then you sold your Bitcoins, you have to be money licensed. You have to be licensed. But the act of buying a Bitcoin and selling a Bitcoin does not make you a money transmitter. All right? And if you see my previous episodes, you would understand why. All right? But the way they wrote it here, they really made it sound like, well, you have to be a consumer or a merchant. And then on top of that, they made it sound like you have to buy something. Okay, you have to sell something, or you have to offer some kind of service. But if you really look into it and you look at the root of why someone like that would be exempt, you understand what they're really saying is anybody who's using virtual currency. And if you see my previous episodes, you would understand that if you have virtual currency, if you have a Bitcoin, in order for you to make a purchase, you may have to sell your Bitcoins to do that. Alright? You may have to sell your Bitcoins to do that. But the problem is, you don't know when you're going to purchase. So you're always buying and selling Bitcoins all the time because you never know when you're going to purchase something. All right? Or the fact that you may purchase something. You would have to sell your Bitcoins for legal tender, and with that legal tender you can purchase something. Or the sale of goods, right? Sale of goods. So you can accept Bitcoins for the sale of goods, right? So this is very interesting, and if you look at it, it makes it sound like, well, I have to be a consumer. I have to be an average Joe who is not investing, who's not buying and selling Bitcoins to make a gain, all that other stuff. Basically, if you do that, you're also a user. You're also a consumer. You're also a merchant, to some degree, merchant. So this is kind of like the important part for me, is reading this particular part. And I understand why and where they're getting this. They're just wording it differently, and it sounds confusing. But if you're a user of Bitcoins, if you're buying and selling Bitcoins, and you're a user, you're still a user. Okay, you're not in the, what do they call it, virtual currency business. So anyway, that's I want to make sure that people understand that, because I think that there's some fear or misunderstanding. Okay, and then also let me see, a transaction in which a recipient of the virtual. Okay, this is another thing. This part right here. Okay, the way I'm reading it and the way I understand from my own research and talking with others is, let me just read, a virtual currency in which, I'm sorry, a transaction in which the recipient of a virtual currency is an agent of the payee pursuant to the pre-existing written contract and delivery of the virtual currency to the agent satisfies the payer's obligation to the payee. So what are they talking about here? What the hell is this? Well, they're talking about someone who is basically acting kind of very similar to an escrow, or for behalf of a recipient of a currency, somewhat similar to like an agent of the payee pursuant to the. Anyways, if you've seen some of my previous episodes, you understand that this could be an integral part of a transaction that requires someone, an agent, to be involved. That agent is exempt from a license, okay? Because that agent is not a money transmitter. The agent is the integral part of a transaction. And trust me, when it comes to Bitcoin, it is integral, okay? Because money, all right, can be reversed. Bitcoins can't. So it's integral that the money, and in my opinion, fiat currency, is received by an agent on behalf of the payee pursuant to what? Pursuant to a written contract, and delivery of the virtual currency to the agent satisfies the payee's obligation to the payer's obligation to the payee. Alright, so that's what that is. And if you've seen my previous episodes, it's very clear that in this situation, an agent and that situation, that nature, does not need to be licensed. Alright, so nothing new here. I already knew that. That's why I wasn't shitting my pants when this bill came out. Matter of fact, I was, I wasn't even worried. So I'm in California. I'm trading in California, and I will be in California. And I'm not leaving. I'm not going to get a license because I am exempt, and anybody else who's doing what I'm doing is also exempt. And also how you do it, this section right here clearly says, right, the agent is also exempt in this particular situation here. Okay, so so if you see my previous videos, you would know this already. So, and then right here, for the purpose of this subdivision, the following shall apply. And then you kind of get into agent, same meaning of the term, and whatever this is. Payee means the provider of goods or services who is owed payment of money or other monetary value from the payer or the goods or services. Payee, that's a payee, and then payer means the recipient of the goods or services who owes payment of money. Okay, who owes payment of money or monetary value to the payee of the goods or services. Anyway, that's the way I'm reading it. And then they go on to here in a person or entity developing, distributing, or, and this is a huge major difference between the California bill and the BIT license in New York, from what I read. Okay, and everyone should also, read the damn thing. Okay, take time. If I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a politician, I'm not a legislator, but I can read. Okay, I can read, I can understand what I'm reading, and that's, a lot of people take granted the fact that you're able to read, and on top of that, that not only are you able to read, but you're able to understand what you're reading. It's very imperative that you not take that for granted, and be grateful that you can do this. So in the New York BIT license, it seemed to me that a miner, okay, a mining pool, and as you know, a very large mining pool, I don't want to say very large, a mining pool in New York has stopped, has no longer in existence, because the way the BIT license in New York is written is that anybody who's mining, well, guess what? You need a license. You have to be licensed, from what I understand. In California, however, I think they're learning. They're learning from the mistakes of New Yorkers, or the BIT license, I should say. Well, I guess California should thank New York, and New Yorkers, because they're learning from their mistakes. Look at that right here. A person or entity contributing software, connectivity, or computing power to a virtual currency network. So that sounds like a miner. Okay. I don't mean a miner like someone who's underage. I'm talking about people who own mining rigs. Alright? Virtual currency mining. Alright? You don't need a license. Alright, so if you bought a mining rig and you got some bitcoins, you could do whatever the fuck you want to do with that bitcoin. And you don't have to let any state know what you're doing with it, where it is, who you gave it to, who you sold it to. None of that. Okay? And so you don't need a license. Alright? That's a huge difference. That's a major difference. So that's that. And then any person providing data storage, blah blah blah. So that's that part. That's a huge difference now that I've looked at the revised bill here between New York and California. Okay, and then it talks about what you would have to pay, non-refundable. This part, I read through it, I kind of glanced, kind of read. Not really important to me, because guess what? I'm never going to apply for a license. Alright? Never. and it says a list of applicants. Just God, I don't know, whatever. I didn't, sure, sure, yeah, okay. Mm, doesn't doesn't apply to me. Just scrolling down, oh, it doesn't apply to me. But this is, and then here they kind of changed it a little bit. What an agent is and all that. They're making it sound like agents for a bank and MSB, whatever. And that doesn't apply to me. That's why I'm ignoring it. They took all that out. Examination records doesn't apply to me. All right, enforcement. Well, won't apply to me. So now this kind of stuff applies to, again, what is a virtual currency business? A virtual currency business is someone who's holding or has control of virtual currency for others in the state of California. All right, I'm holding my own damn coins. All right, I'm holding my own damn coins, and also I'm holding my own damn money too. Which, by the way, I don't need a license either to hold my own damn money and do whatever I want with my own, legal tender. So there we go. So enforcement doesn't apply to me. Doesn't apply to me. Doesn't apply to me. Doesn't apply to me. So, all right. So they took out some other stuff. Okay. All right. This is a person that intentionally makes false statements, misrepresentations. Whatever. It doesn't apply to me. I mean, it's just. I'm glad they took the nothing in this division limits the power of the state to punish any person for any act that constitutes a crime under any statute. They took that out. I don't know why. I mean, it's whatever. They just kind of went all crazy with this nonsense. Okay. So this is the addition here, these little blue lines, and this is what the author of this article was talking about when they're talking about that it would ease the burden for startups. Here is they're talking about this section right here. Let me see here if I can find it. It's in this blue section right here, which they added. Let me see here. So I'm at the bottom. So the part where the author was writing about was at the bottom of the bill here. This portion, this portion right here, where it's blue, where they mention, a little bit of easing for maybe a startup, But if you really look at it, it's in plain text to me that if you're an individual or a company, okay, an entity, whatever, and just because you're a corporation, LLC, or whatever legal entity, does not mean you're in a business of virtual currency activity or whatever they want to call it. The reason why people create those legal entities is to limit their liability. Okay, I mean, just because I have an LLC doesn't make me a virtual currency business because I use virtual currency for my own benefit. Let's make that clear. So don't think, okay, I'm not a person, I'm a legal entity, I have to license myself. I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot. But from what I understand, not quite the same. Okay. I'm a legal entity to limit my liability because I don't want, if something was to happen, I don't want my personal savings and my house and my car to be, taken away from me, right? That's why it's a limited liability. You create these legal entities to create a limited liability, right? And there's all these newer entities that are coming, that are being allowed to be created, and again, they're all for the purpose of limiting my liability. All right, because if I put $100 into a legal entity, well, that's all I'm liable. $100. I don't want my $100 of this legal entity be liable for my life savings, my personal life savings at that too. So just because you have an LLC corporation, or you incorporated S corp, whatever you did, doesn't mean you are a virtual currency business, right? And then let me see here, what other stuff? Okay. Oh yeah, by the way, all this stuff, all these fees, they're non-reversible. All right, so you just pay up, and they say yay or nay. So that's the part here of the California bill here of virtual currency. So anyways, there you go, and that's my take on this. And well, good for you, California. You really need to. I'm gonna be honest. You really need Bitcoins. I'm not gonna bullshit with you. And I could tell you from my experience from being in California. All right, because I was in California and I lived through this stuff. Ever since the .com bust, California has never been the same. Has never been. I mean, I would even argue, because of the .com bust, California has been in decline since then. And then what made it worse was the housing bust that followed after that, right? Which led to the financial crisis. And my honest opinion is, I would have to say that California's on the brink of Greekdom, of bankruptcy. And I really do believe that Bitcoin can help the state of California, the residents of California, the people of California, the constituents of California. It's the second gold rush. All right, it's the second gold rush, and I think it'd be very foolish for California to do something to restrict the free will and use of Bitcoins and virtual currency. So I want to share a story where I was driving. I really do believe the use of Bitcoin outweighs the fear that people have of Bitcoin, especially the financial industry and the bankers and law enforcement, whatever bullshit they want to say, terrorists and all that. And I'll tell you what happened. I was driving to California, and you got to remember, this is all I do. All I do is I am an investor, and I invest mostly in Bitcoin. Okay, I make my living trading Bitcoin. I sell my Bitcoins to get legal tender, to get cash, so I can use cash to purchase goods and services. And I wouldn't be able to do that without, I wouldn't be able to do I wouldn't be able to do things the way I want to do them without Bitcoin. And I wouldn't be able to provide for myself, my family, and others without the use of Bitcoin. And it's of my own free will and choice to do so. And so, anyways, let me get back to the story where I realized the impact. I just realized the impact of Bitcoin. That, well, I guess I've been saying it. Bitcoin has always changed my life, but I really started realizing, wow, how this really, made me really think about this. So anyways, I was driving into California. I stopped by a gas station, and I usually stop by a gas station before I get to California, because once I get into California, all of a sudden, the price of gas doubles. And so before I get to the border of California, I'll stop by this gas station, and I was kind of, I wasn't on empty or anything, but I knew if I wanted to get my last bit of cheap gas before I get into California, I'm gonna stop by this gas station and fill up as much as I can, and go into California. And as I was at the pump, someone came up to me, and they had I'm not sure if it was a credit card. I think it was a debit card. It was a Bank of America debit card. They had a debit card in their hand. They said, and this person said, "Sir, can you help us? My card is not working, and we are out of gas." And this person had a child in one hand, and and as I looked over there, they had a minivan, and they had their family in the minivan, and it was hot, and they didn't have the car running and everything. So it wasn't like one of these guys that, or it wasn't like it wasn't like some person came up to me and said, "Hey, can you help me out? I'm in a little bind. I need some money to get on the bus," or something like that. I mean, it seemed pretty genuine. So, and they're asking for gas so they could get to where they need to go. And without hesitation, I said, "Where's your car? Where's your vehicle?" Went over to the vehicle. It was already at the gas pump, and I didn't use Bitcoin to buy gas or anything. But my point is, everything that I have, all the money that I've made, all the money that I have, all the things, well, not all the things, but since Bitcoin has entered into my life, right? Since that point, and everything that I've received has come from the use of Bitcoins, right? So I take out my bank card, and I slide it through, and took the handle, put it into the gas tank, and the person said, "Hey, well, how much?" And I said, "Until it's full. Until it's full." And that was it. Without even thinking about it, because everything I have has come through the use of Bitcoins. So, and what the great thing is, as long as I continue to use Bitcoins of my own free will and choice, right? I will always, how can I say this? I feel like I will always have an abundance of whatever I need. And so, why not? Why not? Someone asked for gas, and I gave it to them. And the lady pretty much, she seemed to be there for a while, and I think she may have asked uh, several people, and lo and behold, I think some of them were looking at me like I was crazy. But before I started trading Bitcoin and using Bitcoin, I probably would have said no, because I'm too busy trying to make money to survive. And I couldn't afford to pay someone else's gas. And it's a different life now. It's totally, I don't know how to say it. You just have to experience it. But um, it's Bitcoin has brought an abundance to my life somehow, some way. And now, when someone says, "Hey, could you help me? I need some gas," I can, without hesitation, or any thought, or any delay, or just say yes. Yes, I can help you. Because I'm using Bitcoin, which allows me to have an abundance to share. Weird, huh? Ironic. Well, that was my story at the end, and a true story. It really happened. I'm not making it up, and I didn't hear it from another friend or something and then share that story, made it my own. I mean, it really happened. So, anyways, um, that's my take on the bill. So, I hope this helped you. There's no, oh, maybe I'll do. I'm already about an hour into the video. I'll just, I don't think there's no need to do a chart analysis, but I did want to share one thing. Okay. All right, and this is what I'm sharing. All right, I mean, I was so busy trading bitcoins, excuse me, and buying and selling, and man, it was it's been busy for me this whole week that I don't even know what's going on in the world. All of a sudden, my smartphone started beeping, and I guess I have this, app where news articles and stuff like that, and it just it beeped, and I looked at it, and I see some text scrolling, and it says New York Stock Exchange halts trading after major technical glitch on my smartphone anyway. So I clicked on it and I couldn't believe it, and so I started looking on the internet, and lo and behold, this is happening. And the reason I brought this up is because a lot of people talk, or when they think about Bitcoin, they think about Mt. Gox, and they think about all the hacking, and they think about how if you can't trade or send your money, or send bitcoins or receive bitcoins, you're screwed. So why would I even do it? Well, it's no different in it's no different than what's happening here, right? And instead of getting doxxed, you got naysayed. N-A-S-E-D, naysayed. Um, anyways, that was my bad joke for the day. Okay, I was saving that at the end, everyone. So all these people out here, these traders, they've been naysayed. No sayed. Anyways, can I get some likes for that joke? Maybe one or two. Anyways, thanks for watching. Feel free to comment, like, dislike, even do leave a comment. Oh yeah, leave a video response. Till next time, stay tuned. Bye.